In this tutorial, I'm going to do some touch-ups to Mel Gibson and Eva Mendes. I'm going to show you how to remove blemishes, moles, pop marks, wrinkles. We're going to whiten some teeth, maybe whiten some eyes, make sure there's no red eyes. We're going to tame some flying away hairs. We might do some body reshaping and some color and saturation enhancements. Now, when I did search for my high-res images of these two celebrities, I go to Search Tools, Size, and select Large, or we can go Larger Than and select even larger ones. It seems like the larger you get, the less and less your option you have, so I'm going to stick right around either 2 megapixels or 4. Alright, first I think I'm going to tackle some of Mel Gibson's wrinkles. Now, he is a little bit older, and he does have some very deep-set wrinkles that are very characteristic of him. And if I remove all of those, he is going to look very weird. So I'm going to remove some of his wrinkles, but I'm not going to go too crazy on. Alright, now, there's a couple different tools I can use up here. The first one that I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to use, is the clone stamp tool. And I think I showed a few of you this before, but if you hold down Alt, basically what it does is if you hold down Alt, it'll give you like basically an ink dropper. And if you select a point and then come over with the paintbrush tool, it will paint in whatever that is. So you can come in, hold down Alt and say, okay, I want to make this area right here come up here, so I'm going to select this, and you can remove wrinkles that way. You can come in, change the size of the brush, or use your brackets to kind of refine the edge, but it's kind of a lot, that's kind of a lot of work. Okay, so on an older person, it looks very strange to remove all the wrinkles on them. So I think it's best to reduce the wrinkles rather than remove all of them. But I'm going to show you both ways. I'm going to show you the brush that will completely remove the wrinkles, and then I'm going to show you how to reduce the wrinkles. So for the complete remover, you want to go and select your healing brush tool. There's a little band-aid. I'm going to come over and I'm going to create a new layer. And because I'm on a new layer, I want to make sure that the current layer and below is selected, so that way it will work on this new layer, but then not do anything to my original layer. And then I'm going to make sure that normal is selected. Alright, so I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger than the wrinkle. You can use your brackets. And I'm going to, again, hold down Alt and select an area just below my wrinkle, basically an area that is not wrinkle. And I'm just going to There's still yet another wrinkle removal tool. You can use the spot healing tool. You're going to make sure you got a duplicated layer, or Control J. That'll duplicate your layers as many times as you want. And you're going to make sure that you have Content Aware selected and Normal selected. So it's just the normal presets, and then you're just going to come in and it will kind of automatically do the work for you. You're not going to have to sample an area like the other tools. It's going to just say, alright, these areas around it are going to... Alright, so I can probably spend the rest of my life smoothing out wrinkles on Mel Gibson's forehead, but I am not going to do that because it's kind of a waste of my time, because it looks, well, it's pretty fun, but it looks weird. And this probably wouldn't be an end result that I actually want. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm actually going to go back to the original tool to show you how to kind of reduce the wrinkles instead of completely removing them. So from the clone tool, I'm going to come up to mode, and I'm going to change mode to lighten. And I'm going to make sure that I have current and below selected, and I'm also going to, again, duplicate my layer. Because I want to be able to go back to my original Mel Gibson when I'm done. So I've got it to light now. Instead of going through and resampling and changing and making it a stamp of exactly what's there, it is just going to take that dark part of the wrinkle and lighten it. And see, we still, if you look very closely, that wrinkle is still there. Now it's just getting lightened and reduced. So we still have natural looking wrinkles. They're just less noticeable. And he's going to look less weird when we remove them. And I can also use this at for any blemishes or little pop marks he may have on his face. It'll help kind of reduce the appearance of those as well. And I'm doing this much faster than the other ones because it is just kind of selecting the area around it and lightening it. And sometimes I might need to make my brush a little smaller. Alright, so there we go. Alright, for the next set of tools, I'm just going to briefly go over them and show you a few more things because I'm kind of getting tired of looking at Mel Gibson. So, the first one is going to be, let's say, the dodge tool. And what the dodge tool will do is it will lighten things. So if I look here, everywhere I'm going is just it's getting light. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to use this just for his teeth area. And you could spend all your time in here getting his teeth, or you can do a selection, and I'm not going to re-explain how to select things. Select just his teeth area, and then now if I was being super careful and had just his teeth selected, I could just do his teeth. And it might look a little bit funky. You can come in and you can play with whether you're just lightening the highlights, or maybe you want to reduce exposure down up here a little bit so you're not quite getting too much. There is a little bit of yellow in there, so I'm going to pull up my hue saturation. That's Control U, or image adjustment, hue saturation, and I'm going to just move my cursor or my hue over to the left just a little bit, and that's going to get rid of some of the yellow. And ooh, that's still looking pretty funky. Let's see. Control U. Just reduce my saturation. That looks pretty good. So now he's got really clean upper teeth, but very funky looking lower teeth. There is a blur tool. I wouldn't go too crazy with the blur tool. There are strengths and adjustments up here that you can set it to. Sometimes it just makes it look like it's blurry instead of maybe smooth skin or whatever. You can sit here and do that. There is a filter up there called Gaussian blur, so you can make filter blur Gaussian blur if you want to play around with that. But you can also sharpen things, which will again do that. There's the smudge tool. You can move things around. You can let's say that was too big. Kind of just slightly smudge and move things. You can make the strength up here stronger, and it will, of course, move things more dramatically. Let's say I wanted to. Let's say Mel Gibson's nose is too small, and I want to make his nose bigger. There's a number of ways I can do it. I can use my warp tool under my free transform, and again that's under Edit, Free Transform, or Control T. I can right click. Oops. Isn't working. Warp. I could come in, I could warp him around, maybe change the size that way. I could come up into filter gallery, not filter gallery. I could come up into liquefier, Control Shift X. Zoom in a little bit. And I can play around with the settings of the brush. I can make the brush larger or smaller, change the brush density and pressure. The more pressure there is, the more it'll move. So the more subtly it'll move, the less the pressure is. I usually try to keep it low. Now let's say if I say his ears are too small, I could come in, make his ears the normal size. There's this button right here will make things grow for his small nose. And there we go. We have Mel Gibson ready for a magazine cover. It's a pretty big improvement. Alright, so I'm tired of working on Mel Gibson, and I'm going to work on Eva a little bit. Let's say I want to duplicate this mole right here. I'm going to come over to my patch tool. I'm going to select an area where I would like another reoccurring mole to be, maybe right next door. I'm going to circle an area for the mole, and then I'm going to drag it to the existing area, and then boom, I got another mole. I could do that same thing with freckles. Let's say if I want a little bit maybe more freckles on her chin, I would select her chin area, drag them up to the freckles, and oh, got some freckles. Maybe she's got freckly lips. There we go. Does a pretty good job. Really decent job at adding now some freckles to her lips. I got a little mole crazy, and I wanted to remove some moles. I'll select the area that I want to be affected, and then I'll drag it to the area that I want duplicated. Alright, the last thing I'm going to show you is the Puppet Warp tool. And what you use this warp tool for, Puppet Warp, is let's say I want to move a certain area and not affect another. So if I make a point here on her cheek, now I can move, well, it doesn't really do anything. I can add another point, and now everything is going to move around this point except for that point I selected. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do with this, but I'm just going to go ahead and add a bunch of points. Maybe kind of around where the shape of her face is, and I'm going to add a point on the side of her hair because I want to pull her hair out and make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to pull her hair out on this side and make it bigger. So I can drag now this new point that I made. It's pulling a little bit too much of her face, so I'm going to put some more points here. And see, now this mesh will only pull. So it's like every time you add a point, it like makes it stronger. So now her hair's getting a little bit bigger here. I'm going to pull out a little bit more hair. Maybe add a point here to make it. And really, no matter how many times this tool gets explained to me, it is still confusing. So just kind of play around with these points and see what you can and can't move around.